Alright, hello Rainy Math 8 students. I'm here with first period. They're going to be helping me out with today's review because we do have a disaster drill. So a reminder that tomorrow we have a unit test. The unit test will probably be tomorrow and Monday. We're going to give you 2 days because there is kind of a lot of word problems on the unit test as there will be on this review. So let's go ahead and get started with number one. For number one, it says to solve. So this is the most basic type of problem that you are going to see. You're going to put a line going down. And again, just like we've been doing for the last 3 weeks, we circle our unknown variables. Our unknown variable is a 3n and a 4n. The smaller of the two numbers is the 3n, so we are going to do the opposite, which means we're going to subtract 3n from both sides. So when we do that, those go away. 4 take away 3 gives you 1n. And then you bring down everything else that you did not use, including the negative 2 on the left-hand side. And then from here, this is where students get mixed up because they're like, so do we add 2 or do we add 6? But remember, we're circling the 1n because we're trying to get it by itself. So in this case, you want to add 6. If you were to add 2, then you would be left with nothing on the left-hand side. And we want variables on one side and the numbers on the other. So these go away. You're left with negative 2 plus 6, and negative 2 plus 6 gives you 4. And then the last step you could do is you can either just erase the 1 or you can divide by 1, but either way your answer will be n is equal to 4. So the answer for question number 1 is going to be n equals 4. So that's called integers. They're whole numbers, either positive or negative. On the unit test, you will also see fractions, right? And with fractions, there's a lot of different ways of doing it, okay? You can either convert the fractions into decimals, or you can simply multiply by the lowest common denominator. So in class, in our notes, I showed you guys how to do the second method, which is the lowest common denominator. So you take your multiples of 4, you take your multiples of 2, and you see what number they have in common. So for 4, it's 4, 8, 12, 16. I just list a few. For 2, it's 2, 4, 6, 8. And a lot of you guys will notice that the common denominator here is a 4. You could also use 8. You will eventually get the same problem, but you would just have to divide bigger numbers at the end. So I would just save yourself the headache and use the smaller common denominator, which in this case is a 4. So we're going to multiply everything on the left times 4, everything on the right times 4. So if you do 4 times 1, you get 4. 4 divided by 4 gives you 1x. 4 times 3 gives you 12. And then again on the right side, you multiply everything times 4. So 4 times the number on top, 1 is 4 divided by 2 gives you a 2x. And then 4 times 5 gives you 20. And once again, just like the previous problem, we are going to try to solve for x. The smaller number between 1x and 2x is a 1x, so subtract 1x, subtract 1x. These go away. We bring down the 12. 2x take away 1x is just a 1x. Bring down the 20. Again, the whole point is to solve for your variable, which is an x. So we're going to subtract 20, subtract 20. So we're left with 1x. And then if you have 12 and you take away 20, the 20 is larger, it's a negative, so you end up with a negative 8. Once again, the 1 you can either just erase or divide by 1. In this case, I'm just going to erase because I'm running out of room. So for this one, your answer would be x equals negative 8. All right, and then for number 3, so we already did a whole number or integer. We just did a fraction. Now this one is going to be our decimal, right? So with decimals, treat them the same exact way. So on the left side, you have 3.4 m's. On the right side, you have 2.2 m's. The smaller of the two is the 2.2, so we're going to subtract 2.2 from both sides. Subtract 2.2 from both sides. These go away. On the right side, you bring down the negative 3.6. On the left side, 3.4 take away 2.2 gives you a 1.2 m, and then you bring down the 6, or the minus 6. Because we're trying to solve for my m, we have to add 6 to both sides. And when we add 6, this gives me a positive 2.4 on this side. This one gives me a 1.2 m on this side. You divide both sides by 1.2. And once again, here's where I'm telling my first period, as well as everyone who's currently watching this, please make sure you use a calculator. So 2.4 divided by 1.2 gives you just a 2. So there's your answer for number 3. Okay, so number 4. This is one of those word problems in which you are going to have to create an equation and then just solve for it. So the question says the temperature of one furnace is 800 degrees Celsius and cools at a rate of 25 degrees Celsius per minute. So right now the furnace is 800 degrees. And then take a look at the word. It says it cools. So when you're cooling something down, the temperature is going down. So this needs to be a subtraction sign. And this needs to be a 25. And the only thing that is changing is every minute it's going down by 25 degrees Celsius. So this is going to be your x next to the 25. The other furnace is currently at 400 degrees. And this one is heating at a rate of 15 degrees Celsius. So just think of temperature outside, right? If something's heating up, it means that it's going up. So that's a plus sign. And then this one is changing at 15x. So after we do that, we just solve like we have been doing. So this is a negative 25. This is a positive 15. A negative 25 is going to be smaller, so we are going to add 25 x's to both sides. I always get asked the question, what if we were to get rid of the 15x and subtract? You would just end up with negatives, but you would still end up with the same answer. I just like doing the smaller of the two numbers. So this gives you a 40x. This is still a 400. These go away. This gives you a 800. Subtract 400, subtract 400. You get 400 equals to 40x. Divide by 40, divide by 40. And you get x equals 10. So the question wants to know after how many minutes will the furnace be the same temperature? So it's after 10. Oops, let me write it in here. It's after 10 minutes. So after 10 minutes, the temperature will be the same based off of the two furnaces. Number 5 is just another example of what we just did. So we have two cell phone plans. Cell phone A charges $25 per month plus $10 per gigabyte of data. Now you guys are lucky because back in my day, back in the year 2003, 2004, we had to buy every gigabyte, whereas now it's unlimited data for AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, you name whatever plan, right? But back in the day, they would say you had to pay $25 a month, right? And then on top of the $25 per month, they would charge you $10 for every gigabyte of data. So if you went over on data, they would charge you extra. Cell phone B charges $50 per month, and then plus an additional $5 per data, right? So when we do this, obviously we're going to put the line going down. This is 10x, this is 5x, subtract the smaller number, subtract 5x from both sides. You get 50. Over on this side, you get 25. And then the whole point is to solve for the x. So subtract 25, subtract 25. You get 5x equals 25, divide by 5, divide by 5. you end up with x equals 5. And they want to know what number of gigabytes will result in the same cost. So x equals 5 gigs. So if you were to use up 5 gigabytes on both cell phone plans, it would cost you the same amount. All right, and then we go to number 6. Number 6, these are multi-step equations. This is what we've been doing now for the last 2 weeks. So for the last 2 weeks, I told you guys anytime you see a parentheses, you get rid of it by taking the number on the outside and distributing. So 2 times 6x gives you 12x. Bring down the plus sign. 2 times 4 gives you 8. Bring down the 3x. On the other side, we don't need to do anything. You'll notice on the right side, there's only 2 terms. On the left side, there's 3 terms, so we're going to have to combine like terms. We are going to combine the 12x and the 3x. So if you take 12, subtract 3, you get 9x's. And then once again, you just rewrite everything. And then just like the questions before, numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you got to solve for x. I always suggest smaller number, get rid of it. So in this case, get rid of the 5x. Those go away. Bring down the negative 4. Don't forget about the negative. And then 9x take away 5x gives you 4x. Bring down the 8. Once again, we are solving for the value of x. So then you get rid of the 8 by doing the opposite. So subtract 8, subtract 8. You're left with 4x is equal to negative 4 minus 8 is a negative 12. Divide by 4, divide by 4. A negative divided by a positive, for those of you guys who know Mr. Dorito Chip Man, unless you just plug it into your calculator. So a negative divided by a positive gives you a negative answer, and then 4 goes into 12 3 times. So your answer for this one is negative 3. All right, and then for number 7, once again, we're doing the same exact thing, except we're only dealing with decimals. Treat them the same way that we just did with the other problem. So you take 0.4, you multiply it by 12. You take 0.4, you might multiply it by the negative 2x. So first, 12 times 0.4 would give you a 4.8. And then 0.4 times 2 would give you a 0.8x. On the other side, reminder that there's an imaginary 1 in front of the parentheses. So this technically is a negative 1 being multiplied. So negative 1 times 6x is negative 6x. Negative 1 times 7 is a negative 7. We didn't do anything to that 22.2, so you just bring it straight down. Okay. On the left side, there's only 2 terms. We can't do anything to them. On the right side, there are 3 terms. We can combine these 2. Those are just constants, the numbers without the variables. So 22.2 take away 7 gives us a 15.2. We still have the minus 6x. We still have the 4.8. We still have the 0.8x on this side. And then once again, we're just solving for x. So there's negative 0.8x here and a negative 6. Okay. So notice they're both negatives. So the further to the left it is on the number line, the smaller the number is. So this is actually the number we're going to get rid of, the negative 6x, because that one's a smaller number. So you do the opposite. You add 6x to both sides. These go away. Bring down a 15.2. And then if you do negative 0.8x plus 6x, that would give you a 5.2x. And then you bring down the 4.8, and this is a plus sign because it's a positive 5.2x. And then we're trying to get the x by itself. which means that we need to get rid of the 4.8, so subtract 4.8 from both sides. These go away, bring down the 5.2x, and then we have 15.2 minus 4.8, and this is where I see a lot of people start screwing up because they don't use a calculator. Just use a calculator. We're allowed to. You get a 10.4, divide both sides by a 5.2, divide by a 5.2, and you get x is equal to 2. So there's your answer for question number 7. For question number 8, it says the width of a rectangular tabletop, okay, is 2.5 feet shorter than 3 times its length. So if the perimeter of the tabletop is 43, okay, remember perimeter means when you add up all the sides. It says what is the length, right? So we know that it has to equal 43. If you look at all the equations, they all equal 43. So we can't eliminate anything yet. It says the width, so if I draw a tabletop just so you guys can see visually, right? This is the width, and then the length is this one, right? So just picture a coffee table, right? It says the width of a rectangular top is 2.5 feet shorter than 3 times its length. So it's 2.5 feet shorter. Because it's shorter, it has to be a subtraction. So you'll notice that all of these have subtraction, so we can't do anything there yet. But then it does say that it is 3 times its length. So when we look at these, right? When we look at these, we look at the one that's 3 times its length. So this one says 2 times the length, 2 times the length. It can't be B, it can't be D. So we're left with C and A. So remember that in order to do the perimeter, we have to add up all the sides around. And if we add up all the sides, it's width plus length plus length. So we need to have 2 L's and 2 W's. So the only one that would work in this case is going to be letter C. Only because in front of the 2, or in front of the L, there's already a 2. That's your length. And then this piece here would be your width. So my answer for this one would just simply be letter C. Alright, so for number 9, it says Mr. Thompson's class of 25 students is going to the History Museum. Each student will pay for admission and buy a ticket for the cave tour. Miss Remington's class of 20 students is going to the craft show, where each student will buy for admission and buy a ticket for the quilt tour. Admission to the History Museum is twice that of the craft show's admission, as shown in the table. The total cost is the same for both groups. So you'll notice down at A, B, C, and D, they set them equal to each other because they're just simply telling you that the cost of both of them is the same, right? So if I go back, it says there's 25 students. So the first equation needs to have a 25 on the outside, which it does, right? And it says each student will pay for admission and buy a ticket for the cave tour, right? So when you're going somewhere and you're having to buy a ticket and also another ticket for a type of tour, it's never going to be a subtraction sign. It's not like they're giving you a discount. So if you notice, B and D can already be eliminated because as part of the equation, it has a subtraction sign. And we don't want a subtraction sign because anytime you do anything extra, you have to add to the price of it, right? So automatically it can't be B or D, so we're left with A and C. So again, it says the admission is $2 per student, and then the cave tour is $2 per student. So when we are just looking at the history, it's not $5.50, it's $2 per student, and the only one that would work is going to be letter C. I don't even need to look at anything else, simply because I was just taking a look at the History Museum, and the only one that works for that equation is letter C. Okay, and then for number 10, we're just matching. So you'll notice it says no solution, infinite solutions, one solution. So all I'm going to do is for each one of these, I'm going to solve the equation just like we did on yesterday's worksheet, the 3.5. So this gets distributed. We get 6x plus 4. 2 times 3, 2 times 12 gives you 6x plus 12. If we solve for x, you subtract 6x, subtract 6x. These go away and these go away, so you're just left with a 4 and a 12. Because I don't have x, it can't be one solution. So when you just look at the 4 and the 12, those numbers are not the same. So this one would be the example of a no solution. So I'm just going to, let me see, pick a different color here. This one's going to go to this one. The no solution goes to the first problem. So technically, we only have to do one more problem, because as long as we can figure out the next one, then we're good. I noticed that we didn't put a parentheses, so make sure you put a parentheses after the 10, because if not, it looks weird. So 9 times x, 9 times 10 gives you 9x plus 90. On this side, we have 3 times 2x is 6x. 3 times 8 makes 24. So when we solve for this, subtract 6x, subtract 6x, you get 3x plus 90 equals 24. Subtract 90, subtract 90, you get 3x equals, what is that, negative 66. And then divide by 3, you get x is equal to a negative 22. So because it gave us an answer of x equals negative 22, automatically we know that this one is the one solution. So this one goes to that one. So I don't even need to do the last one, and to be honest with you, I'm not, only because I'm running out of space, right? But the infinite solution one, that one will go to the last problem. Oops. All right, sorry, I just made a mistake on this problem. I forgot to distribute the 3 on this first problem. Let me mark it over here on this side. So this should be a 6x plus 12. So this should be a 12 on this side and a 12 on this side. So because they equal each other, this one should be the infinite solution. Let me fix this. Thank you, first period, specifically Delilah, for helping. Okay, so the one solution should be the first equation. The no solution should be the, no. Okay, so 12 equals 12, so the infinite solution should go here. This one we had one solution, which was the x equals negative 22, so that one should go there. And then the no solution should go to the very bottom one. There we go. That's what it should be. All right, for number 11, it says, after simplifying each side of an equation, how can coefficients and constants be used to determine the number of solutions, right? So let's say we simplified an equation, right? And then we got it down to 2x plus 1 equals 2x plus 3, right? It says, how can the coefficients and constants be used to determine the number of solutions to the equation? So we did notes on this, right? We said that if the coefficients are the same and we have different constants, then that would give us an answer to a no solution. If the coefficients are the same and the constants are the same, then that would be an example of infinite solutions. So what this is asking is, how can coefficients and constants be used to determine the number of solutions? So we're just going to write the coefficients, and constants will allow us to determine, and then the three types of problems that we have are no solution, one solution, or infinite solution. So when we're simplifying a problem, the two terms, the constant and the coefficient, will just simply allow us to figure out what type of solution we have. That's all that problem is asking. All right, and this is right out of last night's homework, right? So it says complete the equation, same thing as fill the boxes, right? So that way it gives you infinitely many solutions. So the infinitely many solutions is the key word here, infinite, right? So first thing we want to do is to distribute the negative 3. So negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times negative 1 is a positive 3. Bring down the 7x. We always want it to where there's only a constant and a coefficient, just like the last problem was saying, so that way we can determine what the other side's going to be. So we combine the 7x and the 3x. We're subtracting here. We get 4x. So a reminder that whenever it's infinite solutions, whatever the left side is, the right side has to be exactly the same, which means the coefficients need to be the same and the constants need to be the same. So because the left side is 4x, the right side will also have to be 4x. Because the left side had a 3 as a constant, the right side also has to have a 3 as a constant. Okay? So that's how you do number 12. All right, as I was just telling my first period, we use the same terms on the outside. So once again, this is just negative 3x plus 3, bring down the 7x, you get 4x plus 3. Now they want us to fill in the values so that way there's no solution. So when there's no solution, the coefficient is still the same. It still has to be a 4x. But when it's no solution, the constant can be any number you want other than the number 3. So my favorite number is a 10. You can literally put anything you want in this second box or the second value. So it could be 7, it could be 83, it could be negative 9,000. Okay? So good luck studying. Sorry this video is a little longer. Shout out to my first period for allowing me to do this with them. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.